Good morning. Good morning, solo of the month. Today is Monday, April 1st, and it's the first day of April, obviously, and of the Poulenc Sonata. Like we've been doing the past couple of months, we're breaking this into two options. The advanced option is playing the entire piece. The suggestion is to start with the third movement and work your way to the first, so that way everyone is completing the first movement around the same time, so as to not intimidate those who are going to take a little bit more time developing their comfort with the first movement itself. And for those who are sticking with the normal track, focusing on just one movement, the first movement, do know that they're all great movements. In fact, I've played the second movement a number of times for church gigs. It's meditative, a little bit more meditative. There's an outburst in there, but and beautiful. But this first movement is a lot of fun and kind of the one that people recognize first. So we'll focus on that. So this week's goal, week one, is a long week, 9 days. Our goal is to play through measure 66. And if you're not measuring your numbers, numbering your measures, that's through circle 7. So next week on the 10th, we'll start circle 8, the Peu plus vite. And in this opening section, you'll notice there's a lot of repetition. And in week 3, there'll be a lot of material that gets repeated as well. So even if this week you're just learning it, and then week 3, when we come to the recap, you can maybe work on getting some of the tempos faster and things more polished up. All right, so getting into playing the flute itself. A few things that I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at the overall section before I worry about the first 8 measures. This overall section, there are a few things that I remember being a bit tricky. I haven't played this in about 22 years, but I remember it being a cool piece. So starting off with trills, the C sharp to D sharp. Sounds like second trill key. Works great on my flute. The B to C, thumb. So thinking about what the trills are, maybe in advance, and marking that into your music. Going through those trills. The 8VA version after circle 2, so measure 18, 19, 20, measure 21. On my flute, both trill keys is sounding good and pitched to me. And then the B natural still thumb. So maybe just look up a trill fingering chart or play around and see what trills sound like they're going for a whole step. There's lots of ways to find answers. And then, of course, the double tonguing section, as mentioned. Maybe start practicing now before we're worrying about tempos, just a general double tonguing exercise. I like one where, and this is adapted from something I learned from a printout from Bradley Gardner, actually, where the exercise is in 4/4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 to begin. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, breathe. Coo, 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 coo. 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2. Coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo. 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2. Coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo, 2, coo. Just to work on balancing out the tongue. So it might be worth doing a little bit of warm-up just for the double tonguing before we worry about applying it to the music. But I'm going to look at the music where the double tonguing happens now. So measure 37, after circle 4, we have the first little bit of double tonguing. And you'll notice it represented as 16th notes with an extra slash through it, which is implying 32nd notes. So each of those notes is going to be doubled. So in measure 37, it is not. Although if you play that, it's going to sound just great. But it'll sound more. So each note will be tongued twice. Tuku, 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 tuku. To practice that, I would suggest starting off slurred. To feel the air, which we don't want to be too different when we add the double tongue, and also the fingering. So F, A flat, C flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, C. You might mark that second C flat if you have a tendency to miss that. Personally, I prefer the feeling of the lever for the B flat, coming from and going back to the C flat. C flat's feeling like a B natural, just hitting that lever down for the B flat. Then we might try doing 2, 2, 2, 2. So 2 2s. 2 coos. Coo, 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 coo. To balance out the tongue, make sure the muscles feel strong. And then 2 coo, 2 coo, as I would regularly double tongue. The next double tonguing chunk is at 47. I'm going to look at, 45. I'm going to look at that the same way. Slurring first. and making sure that I feel relaxed. So if you are starting to practice with tension because you don't feel comfortable with the G flats, then we want to spend some time just getting comfortable with the G flats, right? Whatever you practice becomes pattern in our performance. So if you're not happy with G flats in general, maybe just playing some moist growing intervals, slurred, two, ku, two, 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 ku, 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 two, ku, two, ku, two. Just getting used to tonguing, playing, sustaining comfortable, tension-free sound up there. All right, so 45, I just slurred it. Now I'm going to two, 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 two it. Cuckoo, 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 it. Get that second syllable a little bit more comfortable. I'm going to do that one again. Again, trying to think of the same air when I slurred as when I double tongued. I'm going to slur it one more time. I'm going to slur it again, yeah? And now trying the double tongue. All right, and the other place that I remember being scary when I was a student was measure 36. The A, G, F, E, F, E, D, C, C flat, E flat, A flat. Today I'm not sure if I'm going to use a real fingering on that second beat F, or if I'm going to use the trill fingering, which is just the high E with your middle finger up. So I'm going to try it both ways. Now trying, instead of using the real fingering for that second F natural, using a trill fingering, which I know is not going to sound great at this tempo. And what I'm going to ask myself to do is make a decision early on of which of those fingerings I'm going to use, so I end up practicing that more. But those are the scary parts for me, and I like to lean into what's not comfortable. I like to the thought of stepping up to the challenge. So I'm going to add that as a little bit of practice that I do at a slow tempo before I worry about much else here. Those opening arpeggios happen quite a lot. It's basically an E minor arpeggio. So maybe a 1 octave E minor arpeggio. Try not to make too much out of them. All right, and as said, if we just practice 8 measures of this at a time, we'll get all the way through this opening chunk in the first week of 9 days. So pick up measure to measure 8, that downbeat B natural. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on a metronome so I have some awareness of where I am compared to where I want to eventually be based on goals. Sometimes we set those goals ourselves. Sometimes those goals are set for us by the composer or editor or tradition. All right, so I'm going to start at chord note equals 40 with eighth note subdivision. Yaga daga da, 2 and 1. Second trill key C, thumb trill A sharp, G sharp, E, G. C major scale, da da C, B, F, E, D, C, B. Lever A sharp, C sharp, D sharp, B. All right, that's all I'm going to worry about right now. The 7 tuplet will just go on the and of 2. So that does align with the piano part, so we want to make sure that we're just squaring it away on the and of 2. Because of the tie and then the 16th note rest and it being a 7 tuplet, I've heard a lot of people askew where that gets placed. 1, 2, 1. So it starts off piano, and then that C major scale leads up to an F, leads up to a forte. Let's make sure that we feel good about our C major scale. Etc. You can play that ad nauseum to feel good about that. That same C major scale does come back a few times, right? At measure 12, which I'm not doing today, it would be, a C major scale from E to E. But then back at going on to measure 22, C major scale there, right? So we have this kind of a lot of repetition. So we don't have to do a lot of practice. All right, I'm going to speed the metronome up to 42. My first interval is going to be a small chunk, just to make sure I feel confident. 1, 2, 1. Taking a little bit bigger of a jump up, I'm going to go to 48. 1, 2, 1. Then like that. 1, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to take a bigger leap up. I'm going to go 55. 1, 2, 1. 2, 1. Etc. And I'm not going to worry about speeding up tempo in this video, but I'm going to think about 2 things. In measure 6, my D to C isn't smooth and connected, so I'm just going to live there for a sec. And that's probably something I need to do more frequently to get comfortable with making sure that that major finger change between the D and the C isn't interrupted by my stopping my own air. And then I noticed, I didn't realize this was going to be a tendency for me, but I am thinking way too much about that first E, the very first note. And I was also becoming aware as I was doing it and turning internally reflective that there was a desire or a habit for me to roll my flute in for that high E. Probably something I felt I needed to do when I was younger to adjust pitch down, but that was just making it much more resistant, which was making it hard for me to start that note. So sometimes the habits that we develop from necessity when we're young continue with us when we're less young. And it's really good to just be open and aware that we might be holding onto those things. So there we go, the first 8 measures. And if we work on 8 measures a day for the next 8 or so days, then on the 9th day, which is the week 2 doesn't begin until April 10. So if we do that, then we get all the way through this with not a whole lot of effort. And do notice there's a lot of repetition. The next 8 measures, we have that same E minor thing leading to the D sharp. We have the same trills. The only thing is we have a different scale leading up to high E. That same scale comes back though in what will be the day 4. And then we have a lot of opportunity to start thinking about and working on other things. All right, so happy practicing.